Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Not Your Mother's Menopause Instagram Live event. And we're so excited to get our guest on. Hopefully, she'll be coming in. There she is. Hi, Jen. Let me get.
Hey.
Hey, Jen. How are you? Let me just get April in. Um, and there she is. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you.
I think I might have joined it as myself too.
You are you.
I mean, okay, here I am.
We're good. We're all good. We're good. And I just want to, what is happening here? Okay. I just want to, I'm getting all sorts of weird things on my, God. All right. I keep getting, my Instagram is acting strange. But anyway, we're thrilled to have you here. I know that we have a limited amount of time because our schedules are very busy. So I'm hopefully April will be joining us soon. And I just wanted to give a quick introduction about Jen for those of you who might not know who she is. So, Jen is the executive director of the Birnbaum Women's Leadership Center at the NYU School of Law. And prior, she was vice president and inaugural Women and Democracy Fellow at NYU Law's Brennan Center for Justice. Jennifer also leads partnerships and strategy at Ms. Magazine, the feminist movement making magazine. In 2017, she wrote a book called Periods Gone Public, taking a stand for menstrual equity. And yeah, I apologize. And she is also the co-author of A Citizen's Guide to Menopause Advocacy, which was published in partnership with Dr. Mary Claire Haver. And her forthcoming book, When in Menopause, A User's Manual and Citizen's Guide, will be published in October 2026. Jen was also a honored guest and panelist at our first Not Your Mother's Menopause event and will be joining us again on January 11th, 2026 for Not Your Mother's Menopause 2.0. So we're super happy to have you here and can't wait to get into it. So, one of the things that why don't you actually tell us first about I'm very excited about your book coming out because I know this has been a long process for you. So can you tell us a little bit about the book?
Sure. Hi. I guess these are like Maplewood people who are going to be watching too, among others. So hi, Maplewood people
Can you
from
see who's
former
coming?
Maplewoodian. I know my face is like a little weird here. I'm like, look at my hair; it's all kind of crazy. Anyway, I'm all a little bit discombobulated, so sorry, but hi everyone. Um, Okay, among other things, yes, I have a book out around this time next year called When in Menopause, a title that's took a long time to come by, but it's a book that's really about what we'll probably talk about tonight about what it looks like and means and feels like to be an advocate for menopause for yourself, for each other, within our communities, for public policy and systemic change, and for the future. So it's a combination of storytelling. It is a lot of policy wonk type stuff that makes me very happy, but really intended for everyday readers and how to plug yourself in anywhere and everywhere and anywhere you'd want to be when it comes to menopause. If it's about improving how you receive care in the doctor's office or how you engage with your family about it, there's something in it for you. If it's about wanting to do community activism and community engagement, community education, there's something in it for you. If it's about wanting to organize in your own workplace, we got that. And if it's about wanting to go to the halls of power, to Congress, to state legislatures, to federal agencies, to other health agencies and departments, all that's in there too. So a lot for everybody.
Is there one part of that sort of menu of different ways to be an advocate that you enjoy the most and that you really find that you spend most of your time working on? And I'm going to assume it's the legislation part. I could be totally wrong, but
No, it's interesting. For me, that is what it is. I think that stuff is fascinating. I think it's like playing chess and checkers all at once. I think the strategy is interesting. I think the opportunities and it's truly creative thinking for me. How would it, and it's the same was true with menstruation related work too. It wasn't like, oh, here's what you should do if you want to make, having your period easier for everybody. there's no playbook for it. So it meant
Right.
looking at tax codes. It meant looking at public benefits law. It meant looking at education law. It meant looking at, you name it. There's so many entry points. And it's the same is true of menopause. Now that there is this really viable and robust menopause policy agenda happening, we could talk a little bit about the map that Axios put up today. It all
Yeah.
looks obvious, but I'll tell you, when I started working on this, it wasn't obvious. None of this was happening. And thinking about what the avenues were, when you think about what's wrong with menopause care and how to make it right and to right those wrongs, it wasn't obvious. It wasn't like even if some of the ideas were what people were thinking about, because we know that the education is lacking. We know that the research is stalled. We know that the treatments are often unaffordable or not covered by insurance. It was still a real exciting puzzle to think about who the leverage, who had the leverage.
Right.
Was it a state legislator? Did it have to be the FDA? Did it have to happen in Congress? Was there something, we think about research and we think that, well, that must be the NIH and that is where you go. But wait, could state legislators and state budgets direct their state university systems to, incentivize them to do research or provide research dollars?
Interesting.
So to me, that was the most fun part, was thinking about what the problems were, what the solutions could be, and then who could leverage those solutions. So that's what I love to do. And then to make that really easy for everybody else to understand. But I get that not everybody thinks public policy is fun, or, that's not everybody's jam. So the thing that I actually found most interesting and exciting when I was writing the book, and the same happened when I wrote Periods Gone Public, I was pushed to do things in it by my editor that I didn't really want to do or that were out of my comfort zone. And the same is true for this book. And as it happens, it turned out they're some of my favorite parts of the book, and they were the most fun to write. And I'm not just saying this because I'm here with y'all, but writing about the community efforts that are happening around the country and how people can engage their communities in conversations, in access to healthcare, in wanting to be more, public and forward-looking advocates and champions. That was really exciting. And so folks should know that in the book, there are a lot of examples of community activism and community education that I feature. And so Not Your Mother's Menopause is one of them. I also interviewed and worked with the folks behind the M Factor, not just for the film itself, but for the hundreds of events that they've been part of organizing around the country and around the world. I worked with Omishade Bernie Scott, who is the founder of Black Girls Guide to Surviving Menopause, about amazing organizing she's doing, including the event she just held in Durham, North Carolina a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
That was really intended to be, a holistic and ancestral look at menopause, not just sort of the fixes that most people talk about, how to get their hormone treatment, how to sort of navigate in healthcare, but really how to exist and walk through the world as a menopausal person. I talked with Iko Laboria, who's based in Jersey City, who runs a group called the Flow Initiative, who does a lot of intergenerational conversation building and advocacy, public policy advocacy rooted in community, in particular working with public libraries as hubs for education and activism. So there's a ton of storytelling that happens in this book. And I'm not surprised that everybody's stories were so motivating to me, but I really enjoyed writing that part too.
Yeah, I mean, we were so thrilled when you reached out to us to ask us to be included in the book. We're huge fans of you, not only because you're from Maplewood and you were my old neighbor, but because of the work that you're doing. That is just so important, and it is very exciting. When you talk about it, it makes it very exciting, at least for me, to talk about to talk about what's happening on every kind of level, like you're saying, every level from the personal to the global.
Right. I mean, the personal is truly political in this world. And if I ever doubted that, working in public policy around menstruation and menopause proved it,
Yeah.
because there's nothing more personal. And it turns out there's nothing more ripe for policy change. And policy change is political. And people shouldn't be scared of the word political or think that it means that it's polarizing or toxic or unfriendly. In fact, making this kind of systemic change is one of the most affirming types of work that can be done. And you find amazing community. And I will say that over the decade or so that I've been doing this, I have worked with people of all political stripes, and more than possibly any issue, perhaps, but certainly ranks high. This issue, menopause menstruation, does have bipartisan support, and it's really easy, in fact, to have these conversations across political lines. It's really refreshing to be able to do it when so many other things are impossible to break through on. That these issues have is something that we should all learn a lesson from.
I think that's really encouraging too, because when it comes to women's health in general, we've seen how slow the trajectory has been with the attention towards it and the research towards it and the funding towards it. So to hear that it really has been a issue across both parties or all parties that people are behind is really encouraging and
Well, the
hopefully telling of the future.
yeah, the discouraging flip side of that, I would say, and it's not, well, I'll just throw the idea out there, and then you can tell me if you think it's encouraging or discouraging. Both political parties have done a terrible job. Like, it's not like right now, just because we're in, a challenging presidential administration or unfriendly Congress, that the NIH or the FDA or any other agency is faltering. It's been terrible under both parties.
Yeah.
And in fact, and this is absolutely true of menstruation related policies, there have been things that the first Trump administration did that never got done before, quite frankly. The first Trump administration is the first time that menstruation policy ever got written into federal law, and they did so twice. The First Step Act, which passed in 2018, which is criminal justice reform bill, was the first ever federal menstrual product mandate, and that's in federal prisons. And then when the pandemic happened in 2020 and Congress passed stimulus package, the CARES Act, in March of 2020, they snuck in there, whatever legislators were working on it, a piece of a bill that had been part of a broader Democrat-sponsored bill that changed the IRS tax code classification of menstrual products such that they could now be included under flexible spending and savings accounts, pre-tax dollars. That's radical. And
Yeah.
honestly, that was the first time that happened. Give credit where credit is due. I'm sure they don't know they did it. And I doubt they did it with any good intentions, but they did do it. So anyway, all of which is to say that in the here and now, there are opportunities still where there aren't for other women's health issues. For sure, reproductive rights, parenting, miscarriage care, all of that is extremely fraught in this presidential, in this moment, in Congress and state legislatures, in the White House. But somehow menopause care is really rising above the noise, and that's really exciting.
That is very exciting. I can imagine too that this is not necessarily as controversial a topic because it's something that every woman experiences. So you can't deny
I've been
it.
careful there. You know what? I don't think that pregnancy and reproductive care should be controversial either. So I
I
don't want to
totally agree. No, I
in
absolutely
fact,
agree.
I mean,
100%.
it drives me a little bananas when people, like when the news media reports on it as if it is. The vast majority of the country does want abortion, for example, to be available in most circumstances. So I'm not trying to be difficult here and say this is a softer issue or more universal than the other things, because quite frankly, they're all universal. But we just live in distorted dystopian times where our reproduction has more of the attention and power from those who would deny us it than is fair or warranted. They could easily be as dismissive or problematic about menopause care, even that women past their reproductive years might be of less value, or you could put it in some Margaret Atwood Handmaid's Tale context. But I do think that we've done really smart, effective organizing people in the menopause orbit.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yes.
so I want to go ahead and say we deserve a lot of credit for the fact that it's bipartisan and that there are people in the Trump administration now that are willing to take it seriously. And there are legislators across the country in now nearly 19 state legislatures that have already introduced menopause legislation. So, 8 have passed into law in 7 states. There are blue states, there are red states. It's really, really happening. And 2026 is going to be an excellent, excellent legislative session for menopause policy. I'm already working with people in states that are not part of those 19, so the numbers are just going to go up.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And we're thankful for that too. And please know that I'm not diminishing the amount of work
Oh gosh, no,
at
and I
all.
wasn't even implying you were. I was just being a little bit prickly about reproductive rights because
Yeah.
Sure, I
it's
totally
like,
agree with
I
that.
also never want to sort of throw, like, I want to think about how the work we do can bolster all of the demands we need to be making for women's health, and not
Yeah.
just say, all right, well, we're glad we got this one. Thankfully, they don't
There,
care
we're
about
done.
the
We're
old
done.
ladies.
We're good now.
Yeah.
Right?
Right,
So
right.
I want to think about what I think about that often. For example, in menstruation related legislation, I had this, I'm going to tell this story. I'll try to tell it quickly, but it's really fascinating to think about what we can do with this, going forward for all the other issues we care about. In I was doing some work around the Equal Rights Amendment, and I met an Illinois state legislator. Illinois at the time, this must have been around 2017, had just become the 37th state to vote to ratify the federal Equal Rights Amendment in the U.S. Constitution. And so I happened to meet with one of the legislators who was behind that. He was a Republican, and the House leader, the floor leader of the House from Illinois. And when I was talking to him about the Equal Rights Amendment, I said, oh, Illinois, you were probably, part of, I'd like to know more about your vote when Illinois voted to get rid of the tampon tax and voted to mandate period products in schools. Those were 2 laws that were passed in Illinois in 2016, 2017 with a Republican governor. And the Republican legislator said, oh, yeah, it was interesting. I hadn't really ever heard about or thought about that issue. But then when people were talking about it, we had to vote on it. It was really interesting to watch how the legislators, especially the Republican legislators, went from being very uncomfortable with it to being comfortable with it to then being able to hear and listen to their constituents in a different way, in things that they'd never really thought about or discussed about sort of the economics of menstruation, other aspects of the economics of being female. And he said that the work that they did on those 2 bills was absolutely part of what led them to become the 37th state to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment, and that it also prompted them to expand the state's Equal Pay Act. So this was all back in like 2017, 2018, which I thought was really radical and really exciting. That was sort of half of the point always of these menstruation legislation and bills, was in part to, get the thing done, whatever was in the bill, but it was also in part to really invite legislators to have a runway to think differently than they ever had before about things that they'd never talked about before, about things that never caught their attention before, about voices they'd never heard from before. So he and I wrote an op-ed together for Newsweek in 2018 about just that. I wanted him to go on record saying that this really was part of the trajectory. So I think the same thing is true for menopause too. So some examples might be, there are absolutely aspects of menopause, especially now that everyone's talking about perimenopause so much, where we know that symptoms can start as early as somebody's early 40s, possibly even their late 30s, which fully overlaps with parenting and pregnancy. And given that the average age of parents these days is not 25, but much more likely to be, older and older. So there are ways to talk about miscarriage, to talk about pregnancy, to talk about abortion, to talk about reproductive care that are tied to perimenopause. And I think that that's something
Very interesting.
we should really be thinking about, is how we not only get done what we want to get done to make sure menopause and perimenopause care is more equitable and affordable, and education is robust and available, but how does that also potentially change or help us influence how other aspects of our health at that age and stage are talked about or considered by people in power. So anyway, that was a really long-winded, probably not even an answer to a question I decided.
No, it's very fascinating. And
It is
honestly,
fascinating.
You hit on a point that is very near and dear to my heart, or hits close to home, because I did have that overlap. I had my daughter at 40. And when I look back now on when my symptoms started, I realize it was when I went off the pill at 37.
Hmm.
And you don't think about it. You're like, oh, that's weird. I get really hot at night. Oh, okay. It's annoying, but okay. And then the anxiety kicks in. But I also was a parent who wasn't getting a lot of sleep. So could have been that too. Who knows? But you're right. There is such a commingling now of everyone's experiences as they age and what they're going through, and women in particular. So that's a really fascinating aspect and point of view on women's healthcare.
Right. And it doesn't mean we have to do it all the time. We can have our goals and we can meet our goals without, but I think that it's a real opportunity. And especially because this is a really good front door and probably side door to go into. If we know that this is less fraught or less partisan or less polarizing to talk about, we should be taking advantage of places where we can, sneak something in. It's like, when your kids are small and you might put, spinach in the brownies or something like
Right.
that. Like sneaking the vegetables. We should
Yeah.
be
But it's
sneaking in
also
the
like
vegetables a little bit.
just sort of pushing the line at where we start. That conversation is closer and
Yeah.
closer and closer, right? It's that saying. I remember a lot of it around when the Affordable Care Act was passed, and people were, well, it's not this, it's not this, but it's like you're not, this is like somebody had said, think of it like riding the bus, right? It's not going to get you to your front door, but it's going to get you to the neighborhood. And it's like if menopause is what's going to drive the bus of the conversation around women's health on a legislative level, then let it be that. It doesn't have to be everything all at once.
Right. And we can still get things done that are incremental and important. And we should always just have our eyes on the biggest prize we can.
Yeah.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
Do you want to talk about one of the things that is so much in the menopause news world? So anybody who's watching this and anybody who follows us or follows you has probably already has seen a lot of the talk about what's going on with FDA labeling.
Hmm.
And so I thought that maybe we should use a few minutes to talk about that because it's such a big issue and where we are with that and what your role is in that.
So that is one of the reforms that was recommended in the Citizens Guide, which we published back in January, that the warning labels that are now required to be on all estrogen products were are outdated, are inaccurate. Well, probably have always been inaccurate, and unnecessarily alarming for most users. And that is the current status quo. That it's a kind of long and interesting story about how the FDA came to create these labels. It's not just the WHI and the fallout from the WHI, although that was the time when when the label was required to be the box labeling format, which we also tend to call it black box warning in 2003. But the better part of the latter half of the 20th century, from the 70s, all the way through to the WHI, there was a lot of push and pull in feminist communities and consumer groups amongst federal legislators and leaders and agency heads about what the warnings on estrogen should be. People who are listening may know that from the time people started using commercially marketed estrogen in the middle of the 20th century to the publication of Feminine Forever by Dr. Robert Wilson, that made estrogen, sort of be treated like this, this dream thing, that it was like the miracle cure, in horribly sexist and misogynistic ways, but still made a great big, boom of interest in using estrogen. There's always been sort of concern about what we knew, what we didn't know, what the warnings should be, and combine that with the very heavy sort of the deregulation mindset of the Reagan era. There was a lot, and in a nadir-driven consumer movement, there was a lot of tug of war about what those warning labels should be. It was a pretty iterative process through the 80s and the 90s, but after the WHI, the FDA sort of like everybody else did a giant 180 and said, you have to say the worst scenarios for the systemic combination that was part of the WHI on anything with estrogen. So doctors would be able to tell you what it is off the top of their head. I don't have a product in front of me to look at, but it says everything from blood clots to
it's
stroke,
like
heart
to
disease
blow
to
up.
brain
Yeah.
health.
dementia. Not even
Yes,
like
all of it.
probable dementia in like a
It's
skull and
awful.
crossbones type
Yeah.
label.
Yes.
Like it's on like box of cigarettes.
What was it, Mr. Ick, the poison stickers that used to get?
Yeah, like that. So that's what we've had for the past 22 years. That's true for systemic MHT. That's true for vaginal locally applied estrogen, and the medical community is in like 1000% agreement, in particular on vaginal estrogen, which is not absorbed systemically. That is an incorrect label, and that that the box label rules about how bad it is to get a box label don't apply, and that the box label itself, the visual of it, the placement of it, deters people from using it, and that by deterring people from using it, we are harming them in exponential ways. There are doctors, including Rachel Rubin, who've done studies about not just the care, especially for the genitourinary symptoms of menopause and vaginal dryness and all that, and UTIs, that vaginal estrogen helps to solve and ameliorate, but that even there are massive economic impacts to not using vaginal estrogen because UTIs would be recurring, and it causes even greater healthcare costs, especially for older women, and that there's even a death risk from dying from sepsis. For untreated or recurrent UTIs. So there are every reason in the world to be getting rid of this label. It's been a pretty long-standing campaign to do so, started back in 2014, way before menopause was having a moment. Menopause was in the headline. The Menopause Society and other groups, ACOG and others, did a petition to get rid of the black box warning. The FDA denied it in 2018. And with this new sort of surge in interest in menopause and media coverage of menopause and activism around menopause, a brand new modern petition was launched by Let's Talk Menopause, I guess about a year ago, could have been a little bit more, and has collected 26,000 signatures. And in part, certainly because of all this activism, the FDA decided it was willing to take it up again this year. So over the summer, in July, there was a panel, a public panel. It was broadcast publicly that a dozen doctors gave their expert, beliefs and data about why it was time to do this. And word on the street is an announcement is coming very soon.
Oh, that's so
true? That's great.
exciting.
That would
That's
be
so
amazing.
exciting.
So it's not clear exactly what they're going to do. They had a period of open comments as well. So they collected however many comments. You can go to the FDA site and read them. I think they're largely supportive of the move. I do hope that removing the black box label on vaginal estrogen is the top of their list. One thing I want to say, and this has been really interesting to learn about, and it's something I'm really concerned about as, again, an advocate who focuses on many women's health issues, is that what the FDA is required to do to adjust or remove a labeling requirement is a really, really important issue, because we don't want them cutting corners. We don't want them doing process fouls. We don't want to okay it, even if it's for a good cause or a good outcome, because we certainly don't want them to do it for things that we would disagree with them on. I know that they've held hearings about SSRIs and pregnancy, that they're getting demands to take up mifepristone from anti-abortion community. So I don't want to be part of anything that allows them to break the rules. So I've studied the rules and learned what the rules are. And there are some people out there who say that they are required to host an expert subcommittee before they do so. And so I've read the rules and they are not. They just have to have the data and the proof that the label is as outsized and outstated and no longer is accurate or valid for its usage. So if they do it, we can feel good about them doing it. And they were more public than the FDA. I wouldn't use a superlative like ever, but they've been extremely transparent about this. Like I said, 12 doctors presented. It was publicized. The whole world could watch it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Still could watch it. It's posted. Everybody had an opportunity to post their comments. It was open for 4 weeks. All the comments are visible. You can see them all if you go to the FDA site. So I think they did their due diligence, and we'll feel good if that's what they do.
Fingers crossed.
Amazing. Congratulations and thank you. I
Yes.
know that we are up at the
I'm
end of our.
actually home. I left my
Oh, you
I left
left.
my event, so I
So we
am
can
home.
keep talking.
We can talk. I have like 5 more minutes. I have sleeping kittens behind me. Do you know I have new
Oh,
I
baby
you have
saw them
kittens?
on
baby
Instagram.
kittens.
They are
Oh.
demons. They are so cute.
I'm so
And
happy.
they're I think they're a little sleepy, but every so often they like bounce back to life and then they come flying by. They're
They're
so
tabbies,
cute.
right? Are they
They're
tabbies?
orange.
Orange
They're
tabbies.
orange. I don't really know what they
Yes.
are. They're
Orange
just
cats are the
orange.
best. They're so
They're
cuddly.
so good. They're
Yeah.
so. I was saying to someone, am I allowed to be a little partisan here? I'm allowed to be a little political, right?
Haven't
I
you
was
already
saying
been a
to
little
somebody,
partisan?
I was saying to someone, one of the greatest things about them is they don't know Trump is president. So like being with them is so innocent and
I know.
delightful. Like it
I know.
just makes me happy to be with them because they don't know anything that's wrong with the world.
Yeah, I just want to, it's like you just want to be in a room full of puppies or a room full of
Yeah,
kittens. Like
I
it's,
was
I
that's
saying the
just,
other day, they
any
are
furry pet.
objectively, they're like, there's a lot of cute things in the world.
yeah.
They're like in the top 3 of cute things.
There is
Like
a
it
reason
doesn't
that
come
cat
any
videos
cuter.
are popular, most popular thing.
I'd like to see some data on the increased popularity of puppy and kitten videos since,
I know. I'm gonna
you
pay you.
know, inauguration day.
Yes, yes, please do. Let's
I
bring
think
on
we
a
could
Look,
do some
YouTube
look,
analysts.
guest.
look.
Oh, that's very
Oh
nice.
my gosh.
Oh my
Here, this is
God.
one. Who is this? Is that Perchik?
You don't even know. Why, are they twins?
Oh, so
Yes, this is the other
cute.
one.
Oh my
Oh, they're the
gosh, she's
twins.
so
Yeah, this is
cute.
Perchik. That was Riff. Okay.
Oh,
Her
Anyway,
chick.
there they go. Yeah, we can tell.
Chick.
I can tell them apart when they're next to each other. I know who's who, but when I see just one of them, I have no idea which one it is.
They're
my
adorable.
gosh, they're so cute.
Anyway, yeah. So I came home. Yes, I'm home.
Great.
Oh.
Well, then, so one thing I want to mention to everybody who is watching is that, as we mentioned at the top of this discussion, you wrote with Dr. Mary Claire Haver and a number of other amazing practitioners and experts in the field the Citizen's Guide to Menopause Advocacy. And that, for people who haven't seen it, there is a link to it on the Not Your Mother's Menopause website in the resources section, which if you scroll down on the homepage, you're going to see a link to the resources section. It also lives on Mary Claire Haver's website. Am I right? It's hosted on the
And
Pause Life.
I think there's a PDF link at Let's Talk Menopause as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, it's great. We wrote that a year ago, and it probably, I mean, we've updated it in that there's now sort of like a scorecard, a map
That
and a
was going to be my
scorecard.
question. Like, is that a dynamic document that's going to be
Yeah.
living? Yeah.
One of the things that when we published it last January, I suspected and was hopeful that the states would become the place where policies came to life and activism came to life. And so that turned out to be a correct prediction or assumption. And I would like to revisit the Citizens Guide and make it more granular about what states can do. Right now, it's very general. We need to improve education, and this can happen in the states. Now, I'd like to say, okay, there have been 10 bills introduced about states, and here's how I would rank them as good, better, best. And here are ways to, communicate how to make this work in your own state. Like, I think we can get way more granular. So when I have a little bit of spare time, which I don't know when that will be, we'll do that. But the book does that. So maybe I won't give away the whole show because a lot of it's in the book anyway. So
And that you mentioned, the fact that you mentioned the states, we have joining us on January 11th, also with you and with everybody else as our presenters, is Assemblywoman Heather Simmons
I know, I'm so excited. New
yeah,
Jersey's been awesome.
amazing.
New
Like
Jersey's way out there. Yeah.
yeah,
New
Yes,
Jersey
yes.
hasn't passed any of them yet, so they got to catch up. But they have lots in the pipeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's, this is what she has written this legislation about with insurance coverage, and has been very instrumental in that on the state level as
I'm so
well. And
excited. Yeah.
thankfully, she won her election, she won her reelection as well. So
Woohoo.
that was
All
good
right, good
news.
stuff.
Very good
Yeah,
news
yeah,
from the
we'll
third
talk about
district.
that a lot in January.
Yeah.
What everyday people can do to be part of the machinery to get these things over the finish line
Yes.
with our I guess I'm not a New Jerseyan anymore, with the New Jersey governor. I assume we're gonna have a friend in the state house.
We
I'm
can.
assuming so
Yay!
too. Yes.
I'm so
Yes.
proud of New Jersey.
Yes.
It was nice to wake up on Wednesday morning and I'll be partisan and not be miserable.
You know
You
what? It took me a
know?
minute. I will say that I think I don't, this isn't like just me. I think we all suffered, so we all suffer from more PTSD than we might realize from 2016. And I used to really enjoy, the whole CNN, Steve Kronicki and the map and everything. And I do not enjoy election night
No,
anymore.
it's very stressful.
Um,
It's very
I,
stressful.
I there's a weird thing, a glitch on Facebook this morning. I always look at my Facebook memories because a lot of them are like from 2008 and 2009, and I'll pull
Oh,
up
I
really cute
know.
pictures of my kids and stuff. Um, what happened this morning on Facebook memories was this, whatever I posted on this day last year was the day after the 2024 election. And I don't know if you go look at yours and see if it's still like this. It was like a glitch, it was stuck. And so all it was the same post over and over and over and over and over. It looked like the end of The Shining when you realize Jack Nicholson has been
I'm right
writing
with
all
that.
work and no play.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Oh
And
man.
it was this really sad, depressed, angry message that Trump had, that Trump would won. And I was like, are they doing that on purpose? But in any event, I do have PTSD, and I was not even happy on Tuesday night. And I went to bed knowing that Mikey Sherrill won, and knowing that Abigail Spanberger won, and knowing that, the New York City mayoral, that Cuomo wasn't going to be the mayor, and which is my
Yep.
biggest point of excitement. And I
Yep.
wasn't really thrilled about any of it. I was like underwhelmed. I had
Mm.
zero reaction. I felt very empty inside. I felt kind of dead inside. And then the next morning, I had to write my column. I write a weekly column at a Substack called The Contrarian.
Yep.
And as I started writing about it, and I was basically putting a feminist lens on what the victories of election day were, I got really excited. Like thinking about Sherrill and Spanberger, and Virginia is another state that is interested in and ready to introduce menopause legislation. You can look at my Facebook page because a friend who's a delegate in Virginia just wrote that on my Facebook page. So
That's
Virginia is
great.
going to be added to the
That's
roster.
awesome.
Excellent.
But then I also learned that there were 10 mayors elected of major cities that were women, and many of them the first woman ever
Oh
elected
man,
mayor,
that's
including
wonderful.
in New Orleans, including in Albany, um, including I think in Minneapolis or St. Paul, and then even watching California punch back on redistricting,
Yeah.
knowing that the court in Pennsylvania isn't going to flip, like suddenly when I saw it all together, I was like, wow, a lot happened. And that
Yeah.
is really exciting. But I think that bodes really well, taking it back to menopause, because it's like the lowest hanging fruit. And if we don't grab it and push it right now, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying there'll never be a chance again, but this is such a good opportunity to let everyone feel like they got something done.
Mm-hmm.
Let's let them have it. Let's let the Republicans have it. It's fine. Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as it gets done.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot of it getting done this year. The fact
Very
that
exciting.
19 states introduced over 35 bills, it's kind of a murky number because some of them are like memos and stuff, but I say over 35, without really too much of a grassroots movement. There was a citizens guide, and there was some, good connection and organizing. And I was talking to folks in different states, and I know others were too. But this year, with so much more wind at our back on this, if I had to predict right now that by next summer, when the legislative sessions largely end, if we're at 19 states introducing 35 bills, 8 of which are now law, right now on November 6th, 2025, that by July 1st, 2026, we're going to have 30 states having introduced, and we're going to have 15 as law, and probably close to 50 bills introduced. That would be
Wow.
my guess. So here, I just said it here.
Fabulous.
So this,
Let's
it's a good
write
thing that
it
this is
down.
recorded and we're gonna
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, right. That's my prediction. That's my prediction. I'm pretty good at
Heard it
this, I
here
gotta say.
first.
heard it here
Yes.
first.
Yeah, heard it here
Yes.
first.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I just will say again, you can you can look for Citizens Guide to Menopause Advocacy online. You can find it on the Not Your Mother's Menopause NJ.com website to read what we've been talking about, read some of Jen's work, watch out for her book, buy tickets to Not Your Mother's Menopause, also
Woo!
on our website so you can see her live and in the flesh in her beloved Maplewood, New Jersey.
Yes.
And
And the country club,
at the
Yes.
country, we
where we
love it
would
there.
chaperone the 8th grade dinner dance,
I know.
the
I know.
halftime
It's like
cross dinner.
all the sports dinners, all of our memories, all our friends' bar
I know.
mitzvahs,
It made me
you know?
so happy to talk about menopause inside that building last year. I was really, made me really proud.
Aw, it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
We
Well,
were
this
so
time,
happy to have you, and we're so excited to have you back in
yeah,
January.
Yay! Me too, me too, me
Yes.
too.
can't wait to see you. Can't wait to see you.
And with my
And this,
beloved Dr. Malone, Sharon Malone is probably one of my favorite human beings on this planet. So it's such a treat, anyone listening, that you get to hear from Dr. Malone too.
we're
Always a
slightly obsessed
treat.
with her. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
who's not?
Yes.
just a little.
Join the
A little.
club.
No, it's great. It's great to have her back. We're thrilled. And, you know, you introduced us to her and we're just forever grateful
She
about
wrote
that.
the
Yes.
forward for my book, PS. So even if
I
all the
read,
fantasy doesn't sound so exciting, you get a whole lengthy, delicious forward from Dr. Malone of all special stuff that she wrote for the book.
Love
awesome.
that.
Can't wait to see it. Great.
All right.
So
Thank you.
this will be recast on Instagram
I look
here
so weird
soon.
though. That's okay, right? Like I'm like sitting at this
You
weird
don't look
angle.
No,
weird.
you
I
don't
just
look
don't know how to
weird.
do
No, you
this.
look cute. Your hair looks
No,
really
you
good.
look great.
Yeah.
You
All
look
right, okay,
absolutely
good.
great.
Thank
You
you.
look like you just
Yes.
came from an event. I like, you know.
I
That's
won't
good.
there's a reason I was late and I apologize. And that was I was still making dinner. So life was lifing and trying to slop things on the table.
I know
And
life was lifing. I was like shoving food in my face right before John rolled
I
in
know.
right there.
There it is.
There it is.
All
All right, friends.
all
right.
right, thank you so
Take care.
much.
Have a good night.
Bye.
All right, good
Bye,
night.
everybody. Thank you for joining.